Hey, how's it going? Walt How To's and Reviews. A while back, I made a video asking which interior paint covers the best. And perhaps a better title would have been, does the Behr Marquee one coat guarantee actually work? Is that a true thing? And I was testing to see if that was true. And I found that it was true, but there's quite a big catch with that. The biggest being that you're limited to a certain amount of colors. A little bit over 1,000 is what Behr says. And I would say that's about half of the colors that most painting companies will offer. And depending on which type of colors you're looking at, whether it's, blue, greens, beiges, when it comes to white, that was definitely very limiting to where there's only about 3 whites that provide that one coat guarantee coverage. And when it comes to white, there are a plethora of whites. There's definitely, I would say, at least 100. So you can see it's very limiting. So that video spawned a lot of questions and a lot of interest, especially in me. It made me very curious to run a bunch of other paint tests. And this video is the follow-up to that one. And I really wanted to accomplish 3 main things in this video. 1, I wanted to tell the test results of the other tests I've ran since then. I also wanted to answer some questions that people asked about that first video. And then last but not least, I wanted to tell people where they could see any video I make in the future or that I've already made about running tests on paint. Now, I realize this is a pretty random channel, but believe it or not, I have a whole nother YouTube channel that's dedicated just for paint. And down in the description, I linked a playlist for all the paint testing that I've done. So right now, at the time of this video, there's 3 in there, but I plan to put a bunch more in there. I still have tests running right now. I'm just waiting to get the results on. So if you want to see the actual results, like the visual results, and not just me telling you about the test results, you can click there and watch the videos I've already made. And then periodically, maybe check back every once in a while if you're interested in future tests that I'm running to see those videos come out. So now let's talk about the other tests that I've ran and the results that I got. One series of testing I'm doing is what is the best exterior paint? And I wanted to do 3 main categories. One is which one resists peeling the most? Another is which one resists fading the most? And then the last one is which exterior paint covers the best? Now I'm still waiting on the results for the fading and peeling because it's going to take some time, but I will tell you the results I got with which one covers the best right now. So I actually tested 8 different paints from 4 different manufacturers. And the way I did that was I tested the top of the line paints from 4 manufacturers: PPG, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, and Behr. And then the other 4 paints I tested, I picked 2 of those manufacturers, Sherwin-Williams and Behr, and wanted to test the low end, medium, and then high end. So for Sherwin-Williams, I tested Duracraft, then Resilience, then Emerald. For Behr, I tested E600, Behr Premium Plus, and then the Behr Marquee. And then from PPG, I tested their Permanizer, and from Benjamin Moore, I tested the Aura. Now, in my first video, I mentioned Consumer Reports with their testing rated Behr Marquee as the top of the line paint. What I found really interesting is for exterior, they rated it as one of the worst paints, like 3rd to last, which was very surprising to me. Another reason why I wanted to do the low, medium, and high end for Behr is their lower end, their Behr Premium Plus, was one of their best tested paints, especially when they rated it on appearance. There was only 2 paints that looked excellent after 6 years, according to them, and Behr Premium Plus was one of them, which I just found super interesting. So let me just tell you the test results. So in this test, I did different substrates, 2 different colors, tried out different application methods, and what I found was that the Permanizer from PPG actually covered the best. A close second was Aura, followed by Behr Marquee. I called it a tie between Sherwin-Williams Emerald and the Behr Premium Plus. Then came in Resilience, and then I also called it a tie between Duracraft and the E600. I did mention if I had to pick a winner, I would have given it to the Duracraft from Sherwin-Williams, but that's the order of the 8 different paints that I tested on coverage. And like I said, really curious to see what's going to happen with fading, peeling. I also did different application methods, different substrates, and I even went as far as to look at, okay, if I put on 3 or 4 coats of paint, is that going to make it fade any slower? Or what if I start with primer and then put on paint? How is that going to affect peeling and fading, that sort of thing? So if you're interested in that, definitely periodically check out that playlist in the description to see if I've come up with those test results. Now, the other 2 tests I've run thus far was on interior paints. I tested which one is the best overall for cleanability, scuff resistance, stain resistance, that sort of thing. And then I also did another video all about coverage where I wasn't looking at a Behr Marquee one coat color. I just picked a random white, it's a Sherwin-Williams white, to see which one covered the best. So first, let me talk about the washability. I actually tested 5 paints. You could almost argue 6 because I did test one other paint in a different sheen to see if that had an effect. But it was the same 4 manufacturers, their top of the line interior paints, which all have the same name except for PPG. Their interior top of the line is called Manor Hall. And then I also tested a paint from Benjamin Moore. It's called Scuff X because they market it as a scuff resistant, easy to clean paint. The winner I gave to that one was actually the Scuff X from Benjamin Moore. And a really close second was the Behr Marquee. I will say though that they all performed really similar. There wasn't that much of a difference, which I suppose you would expect because these are all top of the line paints. I'm definitely gonna do more testing on how do low end paints compared to high end paints. All right, so now let's talk about the coverage. And I left that for last because I'm also going to answer some questions that were spawned from that first video I made that was really kind of geared towards, does Behr Marquee actually cover in one coat if you use one of their pre-approved one coat guarantee colors? And for my test results there, I found that Benjamin Moore Aura was the best for coverage. Then it was kind of a tie between the Marquee and the Manor Hall. And then Emerald definitely covered the least. It was the only one that after 2 coats didn't fully cover. And if you're curious, I was painting white paint over a black background. So I think if it was any other color, it would have covered. And I was painting a knockdown textured wall with a 3/8 inch microfiber mini roller nap. Again, if you want to actually see it and what it looked like, you can watch that video. And then for fun, I also compared that white I chose, which was Pure White from Sherwin-Williams, with Cameo White, which is the whitest white from Behr. That is a one coat coverage guarantee. And this is where there is kind of a catch and some caveats. When I applied it, I didn't actually get full coverage with one coat. Again, it was over a black background, so I think with any other background, it would have covered. And it's actually really hard, at least on camera, to see that it didn't cover. You really have to look at it with your eyes, and you really have to be very close. Now, another thing I found very interesting is I tried it out with a 3/8 inch nap and then also with a 1/2 inch nap, and it definitely covered better with the 1/2 inch nap. So I imagine Behr could still claim that it covers no problem even over black if you use the right application method, and maybe they would recommend a specific roller or something like that. When I was testing how cleanable paints are, I was really shocked to see that one coat versus 2 coats, with the Behr Marquee at least, I didn't really see a difference. They cleaned the same, which was super shocking to me. So one of the questions people are asking is, I tested these extreme colors, but what about just average everyday colors that people would actually use to paint, such as the whites and whatnot? And I tested quite a few different ones, and I tested a couple different things. Now, when we talk about walls, I live in a part of a country where I'm most likely to see a textured, it's usually a knockdown texture wall for most of the homes, about 80–90% in the area I live in. Now I know in different parts of the world and even the US that isn't very common, might even be rare, but I wanted to test what I'm most likely to encounter. And what I found was, as long as you're using a good roller nap and it's at least a 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/8, the majority of the time you are gonna get one coat coverage. I was also really surprised to see with a brush, when you're going around the edges, cutting it in, I also got one coat coverage. Now, another big question people had, and I was really interested in, what about smooth trim that you brush on? And for a lot of colors, it does actually cover, but when you do one of these drastic colors, I found it doesn't cover with the way that most people, especially a do-it-yourself non-professional painter, would paint it. It's not going to cover. Now I think Behr can still claim that it covers because if you put it on thick enough, you can get it to cover. But I don't think that's actually applicable in the real world, because the amount of time you're going to take to put it on thick enough to where it doesn't start running on you, like building up drops and start running, but also not too thin to where you don't get one coat coverage, you might be better off just putting on a regular coat where you're not worried about it and doing it twice. The other thing is, when you do an extreme color change, like a black background and going white over it, again, you probably could get one coat coverage if you put it on super thick. but you're trying to put it on as thick as you can, and when you roll on paint on the edges, there's a tendency for paint to want to push off to the edge. And again, a non-professional painter, you would be spending so much time to get that first coat just even, smooth, and perfect. It might even be a little bit more efficient just to put on a thin coat, let it dry, put on another thin coat. Usually, you know, you're changing the colors like from this gray to one of these, like, you know, not black, not a huge drastic color change. For the most part, most colors work, but you will run into situations where you have a drastic color change and you could get one coat coverage, but it would probably make more sense just to do 2 coats. But taking that even a step further, with some paints it does take 3 coats. Like with the emerald going white over black, you're gonna have to do 3 coats to get it to cover, where what's nice about the Behr Marquee, you know that 2 coats, no matter how drastic the color change is, as long as it's a Behr Marquee 1 coat color, it will cover. I feel 100% confident saying all you're gonna need is 2 coats. Now, one thing I found really interesting about that first video is how polarizing paint can be. I had no idea people were so passionate about a particular paint brand. And I just wanted to say I really am doing my best to have absolute no bias. I'm not a Behr fan. I'm not a Sherwin fan. I'm not a Benjamin Moore fan. I'm not recommending to use a paint. I'm not telling you to put on 1 coat or 3 coats. Purely just trying to run some tests and then show people what I came up with because I'm a curious person. I'm genuinely curious what the results would be. And another thing that really spawned this was I was searching for test results from people that have tested paint, and I really couldn't find much out there. You know, there's a couple here and there, but they're testing like one thing, and Consumer Reports was really the only place where I could find it. And then their answers were just so bizarre and unsuspected to me. What I mean by that is that whole Marquee thing, like, well, it's great interior, but don't ever use it on the exterior. It's terrible. And their cheaper paint that Behr sells is actually the one you want to use and better. It's just not what one would think. So I appreciate everyone watching. If you want me to run a certain paint test, you know, I've got a lot coming up. I'm testing, you know, primers over lacquer and urethane to see which one's gonna hold on to it more versus being able to just wipe off. I'm actually testing putting in more acrylic resin into paint. Is that gonna have an effect on all kinds of different things? But if you're curious about a paint test and you want me to run that test, put it in the comments, and if it spikes enough interest, I'll definitely run that test. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and sharing the test results. If you did and you want to let me know, the best way would be to just like, comment, or subscribe. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.